I was asked to chair the closing plenary debate, and on the very first day of the conference, before we actually had the opening plenary, I attended the Students and Young Professionals workshop, and Lockie and I recruited 8 very enthusiastic young and new members to IAIA who are very keen to share their views with you. So we have 4 revolutionists and we have 4 evolutionists, and they are each going to talk to the conference theme. Could I invite them to come up to the stage now? We've got our 8 chairs lined up. So sit how you like in terms of one team on one side and one on the other. But so we're going to invite each of these young people to speak. When I made the sales pitch to them, I said, I've been coming to IAIA conferences for about 20 years, and I've certainly attended more than 20 of them. And I've probably spoken at a plenary on about 2, maybe 3 occasions. And I said, this is your first conference, get up on the stage. This is an opportunity for you to not only express your views, but to become known to the IAIA community. So I hope you're going to welcome them and when they come to the stage. And of course, once they've spoken, you get to vote. And that's the next important bit of business, that some of you may have already used this poll. If you haven't done so now, you can I need Tanya's help here. If you've follow the instructions on the screen. If you already have the app on your phone, go to the poll and then you type in the code at the bottom. Otherwise, if you're using a laptop or connection to the internet, then go to Poll Everywhere. Go to the Poll Everywhere webpage and then type in the code. And what is going to happen is when you're into that system, so I'd like you to start doing that process. What's going to happen is when the poll becomes live, it's not live yet, when it becomes live, it'll look something like this, and you can vote for being an evolutionist or vote for being a revolutionist, and that will be after our actual debate. Okay? So if you haven't got there, Poll Everywhere, and then follow the pollev.com/IAIA19 as the code to join in. All right. Here they are, aren't they fabulous? They came to me, they said, we want to talk. I'm so pleased. And we've got a real global mix. Some of them, actually, when you come up, can you just say where you're from? Now, that's a loaded point because some of them are from, born and bred, live in this part of the world, but they're studying in that part of the world. So they have kind of dual identities, if you like. But they are a truly global crowd, and I welcome each of you to come up and speak. So we're going to go through the 8. I'm going to be a very strict timekeeper, 2 minutes each, and let's do it. So Nadine, kick us off. A revolutionist.
Thank you. I'm Nadine, born and raised in Egypt, and now living in Canada, where I'm doing my PhD. I hope this doesn't count as my 2 minutes, because I'm time.
You're good. Let's go.
All right. Impact assessments were born to support a failing system. Although at the time, the hope for positive global development was still alive, unfortunately, that time has passed. Dominant paradigms and systems I was born into have repeatedly oppressed innocent humans, non-humans, and all those in between. But we were taught very well that everything comes with a price. And perhaps climate change is the loudest testament to that lesson. Development as you know it no longer fits our dreams, our hopes, and our aspirations for a better world. Don't mistake our calmness for indifference. Don't confuse our lack of participation for laziness. The revolution has already begun. But this revolution is different. It is not conventional, not traditional, but it is scary, uncertain, and unpredictable. It's a transformative revolution of ideologies, of discourses, and more importantly, of imbalanced power relations. Impact assessment still has the chance to join this revolution. to contribute to real change and to pioneer the structural transformation from the inside. Impact assessment is at every intersection within the intertwined network of inequality and injustice. It can hold powerful actors accountable, question the ill foundation of their power, and expose their atrocities. I cannot personally take credit for this revolution, but I am committed to doing everything I can to support the visionary miners who started it, to build a world that is fair to them, regardless of class, gender, race, or ethnicity. Will you, as IA practitioners, government officials, private consultants, academics, stand idle while the revolution unfolds and washes away the oppressive capitalist system and all its obsolete mechanisms of action? Or will you join the revolution? Thank you.
Excellent. Nadine.
My name's Megan Jones, and I was born and bred in Australia, and I'm a current PhD student at Edith Cowan University in Western Australia. And so I am a PhD student, and so of course I went straight to the definitions. So we've been provided with two quite different ones in our delegate package. So looking at the IAPA starter paper, Evolution or Revolution, Where to Next for Impact Assessment, as well as in the conference program. So in the starter paper states that an IA revolution calls for a complete, wide-reaching and radical change that by definition typically means overthrowing the existing methodologies or systems and establishing a new approach. But what would this type of revolution look like? If the foundational principles of IA need to change, what needs to change and how? For example, are we talking about the objective of impact assessment needs to change from simply just informing decision-making to creating sustainable development, possibly through deliberative democracy? These questions for me still remain unanswered, and this is why I'm still advocating for evolution. If we consider the second set of definitions that we were provided with, for revolution, it talks about a belief that impact assessment needs a dramatic shift to an entirely different paradigm, while evolution is described as a belief in the continual and gradual development of impact assessment. I think these definitions have more in common than they do in differences, and my conversations throughout the conference have also reflected this. I think both revolutionists and evolutionists agree that changes are needed in order to improve the effectiveness of impact assessment. And we've heard a lot of thoughtful and interesting presentations and have been involved in workshops throughout the conference on aspects of impact assessment that are not working and recommendations of how to improve impact assessment. So the key differences to me seem to be about how quickly that change can occur. And I would argue that evolution doesn't need to be slow. Evolution can have periods of rapid acceleration, and perhaps we're due for one. But it does need to be measured, and we do have to have some kind of plan for the future. We have the knowledge, we know what to change. We just have to change that. And I think it doesn't matter if you're either evolutionary or revolutionary. But under what has currently the conversations that I've had, I'm still going to be sticking as an evolutionist until I have another system that's presented to me. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Julian. I am a SIA practitioner based in Brisbane, Australia. So over the last few days, we've heard insightful and thought-provoking presentations and discussions on the challenges facing impact assessment practice. The key theme that I have observed is that the IA process is not viewed as legitimate by all stakeholders, or by some stakeholders. Our world is rapidly changing, and accompanying that is a greater recognition and acceptance of knowledge diversity. We all view the world differently, including environmental values. A scientist would view the significance of a tree by its species and its prevalence, while a local Aboriginal person would view the significance of a tree as part of their cultural identity, as the tree may hold the spirit of an important village elder. Therefore, you have different knowledge frames on the significance of this single tree. Even over the last few days, there has been passionate debate about how to define evolution and revolution. Yet impact assessment is often biased to one knowledge frame, which in turn excludes or marginalises other knowledges, including local knowledge. Impact assessment methodology needs to radicalise to better bridge the worldviews of impact assessment and local communities affected by project intervention. A way to do this is to assign qualitative dimensions, in addition to the typical quantitative dimensions of all environmental and social values reported in the impact assessment process. Through this revolution, impact assessment will then become context-specific, inclusive, and legitimate in the eyes of all stakeholders. Will you join us in this revolution?
I am Tess Mercer from Mongolia. Since Monday, in the last 4 days in the conference, so far what I observed and realized is that IAIA is now just not only professional association, I think it's now already visible body to serve society. So now the current stage of impact assessment is now recognized as powerful tool to manage future consequences of our today's decision. So it means, the today's stage of impact assessment development shows we are in good position. We need to keep current gradual development, and also we need to keep our current progress. So if we dramatically alter the current system of the impact assessment, it may trigger identity crisis. What is impact assessment among the not only impact assessment practitioner and also among the whole society and also all involved stakeholders. And also it may make disorder and also ambiguity. So therefore, I believe revolutionary change is only required when we are in poor management that has been incapable to instill evolutionary change in the first place. So I firmly stay for rapid evolution pathway.
Excellent.
Hello, my name is Olga. I'm student of University of Eastern Finland. And I would like to support previous points about the potential revolutionary role of impact assessment. But as I'm coming from the academic field, I would like to argue the importance of knowledge transfer between academic research and IA practice. There was a positive shift made already in the practice of doing IA and particularly SIA last decade. We could observe that today, in many cases, practitioners have interdisciplinary background to understand the social processes, though certainly the situation is not equally positive in many parts of the world. But what I want to say is that we are still not fully sure how to deal with the social and its interconnectedness with the environmental and the economic. And one of the recurrent questions is what we mean to achieve by impact assessment in a more wider view of justice and equality. So I argue that in order to make these revolutionary steps, we should underpin impact assessment by academic research about social change, sustainable transitions, transformations, and community resilience. During the 3 days, there were also many sessions where new technologies were discussed, topics which were not on agenda of IA conference 3 or 5 years ago. There were sessions about digital technologies which are in use in IA practice today, revolutionary mining technologies, drones, and even sometimes revolutionary political changing contexts. Evidently, this just confirms the revolutionary way in which our world develops. We can deny that, but revolution is happening all around us. And the impact assessment also needs to be revolutionary to deal with these rapid changes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zhang. I am from Republic of Korea, a student from Korea University. I am here to support the idea that states evolution should be the future for impact assessment. IA, which stands for Impact Assessment, has now become one of the most successful environmental policy innovations of our time. At the same time, IA is also constantly showing its side effects and limitations at various levels by assessment factor or by country and etc. I, however, do not insist to put too much importance on IA's limitations, but would like to argue that every policy and act are certain to have its own side effects. Accordingly, we should rather focus on whether a specific policy is improving or not, and then decide whether to keep it or to abandon it. The main code for evolution is learning from each other and learning by doing. IA is already improving by accepting different tools, methodologies, scientific communities, and so on. This is an important point in that the so-called accepting process can already include learning from different approaches and insights of those that have already been revolutionized. Also, the overall trend of IA is integration. With all the elements scattered out in the moment, we should now mainly focus on how to gather their strengths and how to effectively integrate them as a whole package. Yes, we need changes for IA, and yes, IA has its flaws. But this does not necessarily mean that we should discard everything and start all over again. Rather, as it is clear that IA is already improving day by day, we should build on its success and connect the thoughts on the basis of evolution. Before I end my state, I would like to say out loud one of Isaac Newton's quotes that can be linked with my statement. If I have sinned further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Angelo Jonas. I was born in Italy and raised up there. Now I'm living in the Netherlands since 3 years, and where I'm PhD candidate at the University of Groningen. Well, to sum up, evolution or revolution is the kind of questions we can only answer if we are brave and fair enough and ask ourselves, who are we? What are we here for? What can we do in this precise moment in time? Impact assessment emerged in an era in which development was seen as an unquestionably positive, and the only thing was up to us was to mitigate the impacts on the environment and adjust the unquestionably positive trajectory of development. Well, we live now in an era in which each of us can witness that development can turn into proper disasters, irremediably affecting the well-being of local communities and their environment, and whatever efforts we can make to mitigate these impacts, this would never be enough. In this new era, I believe we need 3 revolutions in impact assessment at scientific, institutional, and social levels. First, we need a radical shift in paradigm from managing development impacts to understanding and managing the risk of development, but not in terms of the risk of the investors or the proponents. We all need to focus more on the risk development may produce on the well-being of local communities and their environment, and on community needs and capacities, and this knowledge must be co-produced with local communities and be transformative. Second, we need a radical change in how impact assessment is framed within the regulatory systems. Nowadays, we are all called only once development projects are already decided. But this is not enough. We need a radical change in the way development projects are decided. We need to develop effective tools to influence the decision-making process between investors, governments, and proponents, so to influence development planning and every descending development project towards better community outcomes at the local level. Third, we need a radical change in society. We need that the elite in this world and at all levels of society start to feel, think, and act not only for their private benefit, but for the benefit of everyone, especially of the most vulnerable people and communities. A radical change in the way we assess development is needed, so to include new effective tools to prevent elite capture, corruption, and mafia infiltration in development policies, plans, and projects at the local, regional, national, and international level. We believe we need 3 revolutions in impact assessment. What are you waiting for? We need to act now. Viva la revolución, viva la transformación in impact assessment.
Good day, Brisbane. My name is Wadi, and I support evolution despite my rebellious nature. And here's why. In simple terms, the IAA process is meant to assess and mitigate. And it does a good job of that generally, and the tools and methods that have been developed over the years and that have been presented in this conference are supporting these goals of assessing and mitigating. But it is also clear from the presentations in this conference that the IAA process in many countries is not delivering on the desired outcomes or the outcomes that we desire for our society and biosphere. But the reasons are not because the IAA process needs a revolution or it's flawed. The reasons are because the IAA process is working within an economic and political system that is preventing it from working as good as we want it to do. We have some of the smartest people here, and they have developed models and systems and mechanisms for the IAA or impact assessment to work well. But they're not allowed to flourish and proceed as they're meant to do because of political institutions and economic systems that incentivize the generation of money and debt and constant growth. So when you have these economic and political systems, no matter how much you revolutionize an impact assessment process, it's still going to be restricted in what it can achieve in terms of outcomes. We've heard about how impact assessment process comes in too late. It sometimes clashes with the project design. The regulatory process, is ineffective. The impact assessment process does not consider all the potential impacts or the cumulative impacts on all of these. But when I talk to everyone here throughout the days and they talk about revolution, it sounds to me that the root cause is not in the IA process itself, but in the institutions that prevent it from exceeding and excelling and providing the outcomes that we all want for it. And for that reason, I support evolution, and I support only revolution of our economic and political systems. Thank you.
Could I ask our eight speakers to stand, and if you don't give them a thunderous, screaming round of applause. What is the future for impact assessment? If this is not the future for impact assessment, this is not a good future for impact assessment. I don't know what is. But thank you so much. And now it's your turn to vote. And you put these guys to their certain test. So the poll is going to be unlocked. You get to vote for being evolution or revolution. It's unlocked. There you go. The first votes are in and they're off. The evolution is looking good, but the revolution's catching up. No, it's not. Oh, go the evolutionists. Woohoo! Has anyone seen the IAIA poll, which last time I checked had revolution at 54% and the others there? We've stabilised or we've gone down? Who's it going to be?
The revolutionists, your wind's gone out of your sails. Yeah, you just lost it there, you know, you're just not catching up. How long we got, Tanya? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Evolution! Whee! And on that note, thank you all. This has been a lot of fun.